Pro Savings Days are back at Lowe's. My Lowe's Pro Rewards members save even more with limited-time doorbuster deals. Save $5 on 24-count Contractor's Choice 42-gallon trash bags, now just $14.78. Plus, get your choice select DeWalt Elite Series saw blades for $9.98. Not a Pro Rewards member? Join for free today at Lowe's. Valid through 9/17. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowes.com/terms for details. Subject to change.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesdays. We welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Sirius XM channel 158, YouTube TV, the VSiN Watch app, iHeartRadio, any of our wonderful local affiliates across the country. We appreciate you joining us. We will be holding it down for the next 2 hours. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you, live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, like we always are. And the vibes are high coming off of last night. Nice when the handicaps are correct for the Monday Night Football doubleheader, which we will break down in just a couple of minutes. It was funny, though, yesterday, seeing the discourse on social media, all of the back and forth about ESPN and the NFL separating the two games yesterday and having the early game and the late game. It was all over the place.
You belly-aching East Coasters who are allegedly the tough guys and yet paper-thin skin that complain about everything. You get everything you want. It's a 7 p.m. kick. We deserve something every once in a while. And 7 p.m. is not that late. It's 10 o'clock. Stay up. If you want to watch it, be a big boy and deal with it. The one time it's not catered to you. We got to sit there. It's too late. What are we doing? It's got to start at 4 p.m. Eastern time. This isn't fit. Shut up. Okay? Shut up. It's great to have the doubleheader. I would say we have it every single week.
I would love it.
Yes.
I would love it. And to your point, though, like we don't get a lot of love on the West Coast. Let us have this. This was a nice thing for us to be able to, enjoy the two games and have what you're
No, so today is why we have the award-winning, world-renowned West Coast Bias segment.
Yes,
on this
because
show.
it's necessary, which will be tomorrow, by the way, diving into some of those West Coast college football games that don't get nearly the attention or love that they deserve. But yes, I loved last night. It was nice to have. Let's keep it going, ESPN. Good job. Well done, sir. That said, we have ma'am. We have a lot to get to over the course of the show. Let's set it up like we always do. Time to run it down.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
A couple great guests on deck today here for Money Moves starting in 30 minutes. Adam Burke is going to join us for the second half hour of the show, VSiN Managing Editor. We're going to get into some college football, NFL Survivor, also an MLB check-in as we are now in the final 2 weeks of the regular season. October baseball is approaching, and then coming up in hour two, beat writer for the Bengals on Sports Illustrated, Jay Morrison, talking through the latest in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow's injury. Jake Browning getting the start this week against the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy also out on the other side of that one.
I think Adam's going to have the latest on the Champions League, which started today as well. So I'm very much looking forward to his analysis. Arsenal in a scoreless draw currently in the 56th minute against the Athletic Club. So very much looking forward to it. A lot of kicks at 12 o'clock. And I got some bets that we'll be sweating out as well. Oh, okay. But Burke's not here for that. We'll talk a lot. I'm very much looking forward to his analysis for the NFL season. And we can ask about our home field advantage numbers, too, that we were talking about yesterday.
Yes, that would be great. And speaking of college football, we're also going to hit what's on the marquee matchups of the weekend. We have 3 games with top 25 on top 25 action. Indiana, Illinois, Utah, Texas Tech in that big noon kickoff spot, Auburn, Alabama, plus a lot of other really intriguing games of note, including Florida at Miami among them.
Auburn, Oklahoma is this weekend.
What did I say?
You're excited for the Iron Bowl. I get it.
Oh, sorry. Pardon me.
Be a little bit
I didn't
later.
realize this.
And then, of course, your
but
greatest.
the Jackson Arnold redemption story. We'll see how that goes.
Your greatest shame as you will watch Dylan Raiola play host to Michigan and continue to widen the gap between himself and Avery Johnson, as you had forgotten about our single season wager on the performance of the two signal callers.
I did forget about it a little bit. Actually, that's a good tease, too, for tomorrow. We're going to have Chris Budden, ESPN college football reporter, join us. She covered K-State earlier this year. She's covered a lot of them over the years. I'm very curious her opinion on where that team and Avery Johnson specifically is at right now. But let's get things started with what transpired last night. And I think it's fair to say, especially in that first game of the evening, we had a little Monday night madness. Bucks Texans in the second half. The only scoring we saw was a field goal until chaos ensues in the final 2:10. Houston trails 14-13 at home. Nick Chubb scores with 2 minutes to go. Texans pull ahead 19-14. Couldn't convert the 2-point attempt. Then it's peanut butter Baker time. Baker Mayfield, for the second week in a row, delivers a masterful end-of-game drive, which included the 4th and 10 conversion that ended in a somersault. Rashad White ends up running the game-winning touchdown in final 10 seconds. Bucks win by 1, 20-19, so an outright win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who closed as 2.5-point dogs. Total stays under. The SGT we talked about yesterday would have hit also, because I know you love those.
What do you mean would have?
much.
You didn't play it?
No.
You brought it up like 1,000 times.
I said on the air I wasn't going to play it, but I said I do enjoy an SGT every once again, and I would have done it that way.
An SGT for S's and G's? Why not?
S's and G's? What's that?
Bleeps and giggles. Come on now.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't catching on to that one.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not hip to the times. What are you going to do? At least I asked and didn't just laugh and go on with it.
I would have done that. So here's the thing. It's why I look so smart. He's like, man, this guy knows everything.
So smart.
I will say it again. I've said it 1,000 times. And it's funny because we are starting to – we have a similar situation to an extent happening in Cincinnati. If your offensive line sucks, your offense is going to suck. C.J. Stroud, again, pressured on 40% of his dropbacks. That's an astronomical number. A grand total of 22 pressures in a single game for all of Tampa Bay defenders. They had 4 sacks in the game as well. This is a very big reason why we saw, yet again, C.J. Stroud struggle in this game. Just 54% completion, committed 1 single turnover-worthy play, 8.6 yards per attempt is fine, but the guy can't breathe. There's a dude in his lap almost every single time. You've got to move the pocket. You've got to do all these things to make up for what is a very clear and obvious weakness that is eventually, I think, going to hold this team back. They are now, 0-2 to start the year. And I think you can look at both of these performances and say, wow, this defense looks great. And this offense looks awful. Yep. And it's exactly what we have talked about with this team. You saw it coming from a mile away. Now, granted, the AFC South stinks, so maybe they're going to be able to get 9 wins and be able to get this done and win the division still. But I don't know how you can watch this team, these 2 games, which reflect what we saw last year over the course of a larger sample size, and say, this team's a threat. Their offensive line sucks, and they refuse to address what the big issue is for them.
Their offensive line sucks, and I think it's fair to say, too, Nick Chubb isn't what he used to be either, and so that didn't look good behind that offensive line. That 0-2 start, as you mentioned, now has the Texans 3rd on the board in the AFC South, plus 270. Your Indianapolis Colts, plus 130 favorites, followed by the Jags, plus 225. And Jacksonville is who the Texans face next. They're getting 1.5 points in Jacksonville. Meanwhile, on the other side of this, Bucks off to a 2-0 start and pulling off close down-to-the-wire wins on the road in both. In actually what's been historically dramatic fashion, according to ESPN Stats and Information, Bucks are the first team since the 1970 merger to score a game-winning touchdown in the final minute of regulation to win each of their first 2 games of the season. They have won these first 2 games, though, by a combined 4 points. So for a team, though, that we were high on coming into the season, a good, notable start for them. And they're just going to get healthier, by the way, as well, with Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin getting themselves healthy and worked into the fold here shortly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, they're going to get worked into the fold shortly. It sounds like their defense is getting dinged up, though, so that's a pretty big deal with the news about Kalijah Kancey. So this is, I mean, it's not one of those where it's like, look at how right I was. But it's one of those what we talked about with Tampa Bay. I have this number 1 seed in the NFC, and it reflects what we talked about with San Francisco. I think this team probably is good enough to compete with their schedule for a top seed. But if you look at them from a pure power rating standpoint and what some of their weaknesses might be, I think there's a pretty clear line of demarcation between them and Philly and Green Bay. And actually, it seems maybe about it in the NFC.
But fortunately, the schedule is so easy, the back end of this thing, that they're still going to have potential to be in it.
Yes. So my point here is this might be a team that eventually is maybe 1 or a 2 seed just because of the way their schedule breaks down. But once you get there and you view them through the prism of power ratings, they're not going to be that great. I mean, you look, for example, week 4 is going to be a pretty big litmus test that they might fail. Because I think from a power rating standpoint where they are, I just don't know if they have the power to go up against a Philadelphia Eagles team. But who knows? Maybe by the time we get there, maybe you're talking about your 2 offensive players healthy and back against Philadelphia. If you have a full complement of weapons at wide receiver, we've talked about the questions at that second corner spot for Philadelphia and whether or not, Dory Jackson, Ja'Cory Bennett, that rotation is really going to work out. So maybe there's a chance they can do it, but I think this team has good record, but like average team written all over it as they go along.
I feel like if nothing else, though, a hard out because of what Baker Mayfield brings and what the defense, at least from a mindset perspective, brings. Buccaneers will be facing the Jets this coming week, laying the full touchdown at home in that spot. Let's hit game 2 here. Chargers-Raiders, not as riveting as a game. The Chargers win and cover the 3.5. 20-9 final. A cruise for you, laying the 3.5. Total stays under. LA now, though, not only 2-0 to open the season, but 2-0 in the AFC West. Neither of these games at home, by the way. Chargers now -110 favorites in the division. The Chiefs +270, Broncos +320. They are also the 4th shot in the AFC, behind only the favorite Bills at 2-1, Ravens +240. The Chiefs still ahead of LA, though, at 7-1. Them sitting 8-1. And Justin Herbert also climbing the MVP boards here, 4th shot on the board at 8-1.
So this is what sticks out to me. How many times did a Chargers DB get their hands on a ball last night? They had by PFF 8 pass breakups. Those dudes were all over these Raiders wide receivers. And we had talked yesterday to Fernando, who covers the Chargers.
And 3 interceptions, too.
Yeah, exactly. So, so the whole point here being, so I added the Chargers to win the AFC at +750 last night. If these DBs and this defense is going to be able to play at this level, while on the other end, you get an offense and a quarterback that is playing as well as Justin Herbert is. With the Chiefs starting 0-2, with my own questions about the Broncos, lack of belief in the Raiders, and this weird vacuum of power at the top of the AFC, you tell me right now who you think is, bar none, the third best team in the AFC.
Oh, third best?
Right, that's what I'm saying, right? You have Buffalo, you have Baltimore.
It's Buffalo, Baltimore, and then, I would put the Chargers
Indy,
there.
LA?
I would put the Chargers
The Chiefs
there,
still? But again, they're 0-2, and they have their own questions. I think this team's a legitimate threat in the AFC. And if they're going to continue to play at that level, and those DBs are going to play at that level, I know they lost Khalil Mack yesterday to an arm injury. This team looks legitimately dangerous. And then you factor in the other things, the fall from grace for the Houston Texans, a Steelers team that I think clearly looks like they're deeply flawed. This is pretty open for the Chargers to not only win the division, but have a high seed in the AFC and compete for a conference title.
Yeah, the Bengals without Joe Burrow, who fall the way they do. I know you don't believe in Aaron Rodgers, so there's a lot of different layers to that, certainly. And to your point about this defense, so 3 interceptions. Geno Smith also 0-11 on passes of 10 yards or more downfield. That's the second most attempts without a completion for a quarterback in a game since ESPN started tracking it in 2006.
How about on the last 4th down, did he throw it away?
Yes. My husband and I were both yelling at the television. How do you not at least try to make something happen? How do you throw it away on a 4th down at the end of the game?
Remember when Derek Carr did that a few years ago?
Yeah. Well, so then you're used to that, Raiders fans. We got to step aside. First time out of the day. More money moves coming up after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live in Las Vegas. And one thing that we didn't get to really talk about last segment, because boy, that segment flew by as we were recapping the Chargers and Raiders, was Tom Brady being up in the booth. And for anyone who missed it, Peter Schrager had a report during the ESPN broadcast yesterday that Brady and Chip Kelly talk 2 to 3 times per week. They're going through film, they're going through the game plan, and then Field Yates kind of followed up, as did so many others on social media, talking about how Brady's calling Cowboys Bears this weekend. The Raiders have the Bears in week 4. Conflict of interest? Do you recuse yourself from meetings? How does this all work? I'm very curious. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, you're the one that should be asked this question. You're not in NFL games, but you're in these meetings with these coaches. How does it work? What do they give you? What do you ask? Would he be able, in your mind, having been able to talk to coaches and players behind the scenes, getting ready for your games, have you been able to glean any information that, if you were in the power of, you could then give to a team to give them an upper hand?
Yes. But so I would say this changes the complexion of how those meetings would go in my mind, because if you are another coach and you recognize now that Brady is having these types of deep dive conversations with an opponent coordinator and is in the coach's booth with a headset on during a game, I don't think that you're going to share as much information or even close to as much information as you might in an unguarded conversation where you know somebody's not going to try to in any way hurt you, right? That's something a lot of coaches are very guarded. If they don't know a crew well, they're going to keep things close to the vest. They're going to treat you just like the local media in your regular press conferences. If you do have good relationships, if you have built up trust over time with a coach, or if you are a player that has established himself in a certain way, they're going to share more information with you, be more vulnerable, and be more open.
So you and Cal.
Exactly.
Yeah. You and the
Wilcox
Cal
tells
Golden
us
Bears.
everything.
You and the Cal Golden Bears. Tight.
But I say that because Tom Brady innately, because of the player that he is, probably makes people want to open up and share more information with him and get more perspective and bounce things off of him. After this, I'm not so sure that would be the case. I'm not so sure they're going to open practices up for him to go into.
I actually think the underrated aspect of what was being talked about and reported yesterday is the fact that he meets with Chip Kelly to go over the game plan 2 to 3 times a week.
Wild.
I mean, micromanaging much? Let them do their job. The meeting didn't really do that much these last 2 weeks. You barely got 20 against the Patriots team that was missing its best defender, and then this week you were absolutely awful at home.
Yeah.
So, again, we've seen this. I don't know if you've seen the old adult swim bit, Too Many Cooks. Too many cooks, man. And we see it all the time where you get these people who are just, there's too many voices, too many things, and it doesn't really work out. And through 2 weeks, the Raiders' offense has looked very below average. We've also learned some things about them, too. Last year, this was one of the worst run-blocking offensive lines we've ever seen. It seems like that might be the case again this year, and that your boy Ashton Genty is not going to be working with a lot of space.
He has admitted that he's still catching up to the speed of the NFL as well, so that doesn't help the cause.
Doesn't help when there's a dude in his lap every time, too.
Fair point. What do you think about this early spread, though, in Washington coming up this weekend? Raiders getting 3.5, so the hook is their total 44.5.
I mean, it goes back to, well, first off, we don't know if Jaden Daniels in or out, right?
That is the key.
If you tell me
Dealing
he's
with
going to play.
Knee sprain, it appears, but very TBD. Unlike we've had all these other quarterback injury updates where we know a guy is out. This one we're not sure.
So I think it's a cop-out to say, I don't want anything to do with this game. Even if Jaden Daniels plays, will it spring back to that 6.5, or the market assume that he's not fully healthy and it's only going to tepidly go back to like a 4.5 or a 5?
If you got that 6.5, though, you're feeling pretty good.
If you grabbed it with the Raiders, of course, you got a full 3 there. Now, having said that, if I have watched them the last 2 weeks, I'm probably not feeling entirely great. I'm just feeling good about the number. But that's going to be it. It's if Daniels is going to play, how is that going to look? If he doesn't play, going back to what my questions were about this team, will you be able to, as a defense, hold up against what is going to be an offense led by Marcus Mariota, a former Raider, by the way. So I think that our Mariota is still serviceable enough that in a one-game setting, he's going to be able to come in there and run this offense. He's been there for a couple of years now. I'm not saying that there's no drop-off between Mariota and Jaden Daniels, but in taking on a team whose floor is, or should be an opponent who probably raises your floor as an offense, I think you're still in a pretty good spot if you're Washington.
Another 3.5 spread game. Survivor.
Throwing it out there. Extra rest.
What was the first way you started that out? Was just saying this is probably a stay-away game.
But think about this. Situationally, team coming off of a Monday night game, taking on a team with extra rest coming off of a Thursday night game. Situationally, it is a very positive spot for the Washington Commanders. You don't really find that too often, where your opponent's coming off of a short week and you have had that extra week because of you playing on Thursday night the week prior.
Let's save our Survivor conversation for when Adam Burke joins the program.
Adam, tell me if that was a smart nugget or not. I think that was a good one.
He'll be with us on the desk in about 10 minutes, so you can save that question for then. Another 3.5 spread, though, I am curious your opinion on. Pair of 2-0 teams, contenders in the NFC potentially, depending on how you grade them. The Los Angeles Rams getting 3.5 in Philadelphia, taking on the Eagles. Total in this one, 44.5. Kind of a weird game for Los Angeles against the Titans this past weekend. Did end up ultimately pulling away. And then the Eagles, of course, coming off a win in Kansas City.
This one, I am conflicted because I have seen first initial blush, just looking over it the last couple, like yesterday and after the games, was LA Rams plus 3.5. Only because Stafford seems to be playing some pretty good football despite this injury that we were worried about in terms of his back. He was brilliant in many different metrics against the Houston Texans defense. It was very good. Last week against the Titans, 69% completion, 298 yards. Did put the ball in danger twice, but still overall played very well. And I think that when we go back to, again, what your questions are about Philadelphia, whether or not that's going to be the case, going after that, being able to go after what is potentially a soft spot in the secondary. Are they going to be able to generate pressure off the edges like we've discussed before? These wide receivers are very good and very deep. I think that the Rams are good enough, competent enough, and old school handicappers would tell you, revenge on the mind after going to Philly last week, hanging the banner of we were the team that almost beat Philadelphia the closest. There's a lot at stake there, but I think the Rams are a team that you could argue is maybe going to find its way into the upper echelon in the NFC that we were discussing earlier.
How'd you like the back and forth between Jalen Hurts and Chris Jones at the end of the game?
Oh, yeah, what was it? So
Chris Jones is like, you don't even have 100 yards.
Right, and he told him to shut up. It was like they lost, right?
Yeah. You lost the bleeping game. Yeah. Shut up.
Scoreboard.
Scoreboard.
Of the insults that can be like levied or comebacks, scoreboard is always the best one.
Always a good one. So which of these 3 games would you say is the game of the week in the NFL? Rams, Eagles, Broncos, Chargers, or the Monday night Lions at Ravens?
Colts and Titans.
Get out of here.
All right.
49ers, Cardinals.
Yeah.
See how it sounds?
Yes.
Say it out loud.
I mean, that's
with
terrible.
Your chest.
We got a 2-0 Titans, or excuse me, 2-0 Colts team trying to keep this going. What are my options again?
We got a 2-0 49ers team, too, with an injured quarterback.
I mean, it's got to be
a better story.
It's got to be Giants and Chiefs 0-2 matchup on Sunday night. The fact that they're shoving this down our throats.
Actually, can we talk about that being a wild game for the way that people are talking about Kansas City right now, and the Giants actually having an offensive explosion this past weekend?
Despite the fact that, the Giants are the best defense in the NFL or whatever it was that was alleged.
Elite.
Because we don't want to make Brian Ortega angry, I would have to say Lions and Ravens is obviously at the top of the list.
It's going to be a banger.
I think we know what the Ravens are. The Ravens look very good offensively through 2 games. The offense finally started to wake up a little bit against the Cleveland Browns last week in that second half. Even in the first half, we were watching it getting frustrated. They were generating explosive plays. It's just the red zone play for Baltimore was awful. And I think we attest that to how good Cleveland can be defensively. So I think we know that Baltimore is going to be pretty explosive yet again in this game against Detroit. And as you mentioned yesterday, we have 2 performances on the opposite ends of the spectrum for the Lions. Mm-hmm. We have them getting their heads caved in by the Green Bay Packers, but that might seem more about Green Bay than it does about Detroit. And then you have them running up the score last week against their former offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, who might just be the head coach of one of the worst teams in the NFL. That together makes me say, well, I don't know that much about the Lions, but I do know enough about the Ravens to say team total play might be here for the Ravens. A similar game to what we just watched against Buffalo. When you get these 2 teams that play one another, they tend to go over. Same total as well as that game, 51.5.
It's that's what I was going to ask you about, how many points get scored in this game?
I would assume it's going to be quite a bit. When you just in today's day and age, we know that the NFL is gearing itself toward offense with the way the rules are played. And when you just get high-level competition, they tend to know how to handle each other, and that leads itself to, I think, relatively high-scoring games as we just saw between Buffalo and Baltimore.
There have been 2 other games so far this season with totals in the 50s, one of them being that Buffalo-Baltimore. Mm-hmm. That went over. Jags-Bengals also went over the total.
2 Titans, 2 heavyweights going out there.
Lots of offense, not as much defense as you would expect. Because we talked so much about the Chargers off the top and them going 2-0 to start this season, as well as in the AFC West, another AFC West opponent here in Week 3 in the Broncos. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's a big game,
huge
obviously.
Game.
If you can start 3-0 and 3-0 in the division, you're in the driver's seat. And for the Broncos, Bo Nix has looked okay. First game wasn't great. Second game was better, but then he still commits a turnover and a key one at that. I still really have some faith in this Chargers team. If we're going by what we're talking about with our market ratings, which you do on Fridays, we have to answer the question, are the Chargers just about 1.5 points better? And maybe if you don't want to give them too much home field because of how we feel about them playing out there in L.A., all right, let's just say it's 2 points. Is this really, are these 2 teams near equals to each other? I'd say the Chargers are better, but it's one where I think that safe answer, it's probably the right line right now.
Chargers under Jim Harbaugh, an NFL best 15-4 against the spread, including 12-2 as favorites. 8-0 against the spread in division games. We've got to step aside. We'll be right back. When we do come back, VSiN's own Adam Burke is going to join us in studio. Don't miss it.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you want to cash in, you got to have the right insights. With VSiN Pro, you'll see real-time DraftKings and Circa betting splits, so you know where the public and sharps are putting their money. Pair that with a daily email recapping all of the best bets from our show hosts and guests, nonstop live video on the VSiN Watch app, and proven betting systems at VSiN.com. You'll have all the tools to stay ahead each and every week. Start betting smarter today for just $9.99, or you can save 50% with an annual plan at VSiN.com/subscribe. Again, that's VSIN.com/subscribe. also up on VSiN.com. Plenty of articles looking ahead already to the Week 3 NFL slate, college football, Major League Baseball. A couple weeks left before we get to October baseball and the postseason as we welcome you back here to Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you, and somebody who handles all of that work over at VSiN.com, our managing editor, Adam Burke, joining us here for a full half hour on the program. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back.
Good to be back. Glad to be back. Glad to be back on the show with you guys. And also, while you're subscribing to things, a new episode of the College Football Podcast with myself and Tim Murray just dropped this morning. So you can subscribe to that wherever you get your podcast.
But more importantly, there's a new podcast that's out right now.
Oh, yes, that's right.
With myself
hold on real quick. I really did like you trying to get into his one shot there and then having them cut to the full table.
Please like, rate, review, and subscribe. I need to feed my family.
Last time I was here, he was like, "The hell away from me! You're too close." Right. And then now this time, he's like, "I can't get close enough."
Because obviously it was behind the scenes.
Did you miss me?
I did, but the first thing I said was when I scooted over, I just told Storm, scoot over.
He told me to get out of the way.
Like, just get
the audacity. But with that, actually, JVT, real quickly, with that in mind, so the first episode out today?
Yeah, should be on YouTube shortly. And working to get the podcast feed up and running. But yes, Pod to the Futures with myself and Mitch Moss. First episode up this morning.
Beautiful. Adam, what was the hot button topic on the college football betting podcast for people that go listen?
Well, it was Tim Murray, so obviously Notre Dame was brought up extensively. No, we did talk a little bit about Notre Dame and their loss to Texas A&M, but a lot of stuff in terms of adjustments that I made to my power ratings. Now that we've got essentially 3 weeks worth of data points for these teams. Some have already had buys, but 3 weeks worth of data points for these teams where, every roster basically feels like it's completely brand new thanks to the transfer portal. So just kind of talking about, if things are overreactions, if kind of what we're seeing is what we can expect going forward. And then, of course, the 2 head coaching firings with Brent Pry and then also Deshaun Foster.
All right, so of these the first 3 weeks, is there a data point? Is there a team? Is there something that stuck out in your guys' conversation that you think is either real or fake as we're moving forward?
Well, it's very real, I think, to both of us that Kansas State sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
You guys are just really trying to hammer this home on me this week, huh? I get it.
I mean, I've dropped them. I get it. I've dropped them 13.5 points in my power rating since week 1, and I actually bumped them up from their week 0 game because they should have won that game. If you look at the box score... You look at the kind of deeper dive analytics box score. They should have won that game against Iowa State over in Dublin. They didn't. So I kind of bumped them up a little bit because I was like, you know what? Like, they lost the game they probably should have won. Maybe I want to come back in on them here soon. All they've done since then is drop in my power ratings. So
that's really quick.
That's a bad team.
You say you dropped them 13 points. For context, what teams are they among right now?
Oh, well, for you. Thank you for putting me on the spot.
Well, I apologize. I'm sorry. I feel like it's important.
No, I think it is an important point, especially because I had them power rated like around a 78.5 to start the season, which would have put them, in the top 25, certainly. Now I have them down around teams like Boston College, who of course just lost to Syracuse. Okay. Around Memphis, who I'm fading this week. I'm taking Arkansas against Memphis. As a 7-point favorite. Colorado is in that range. And, of course, interestingly enough, Arizona in that range, too. Where, Brennan tried to give that game away on Friday night as much as he possibly could.
I'm not a Brennan guy.
Syracuse has Clemson this week, and I'm very curious how you have graded or changed your grade on Clemson with the way that they have started this season as well. Tough loss for them against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, not a good look. I'm just waiting. Maybe this has already happened, but I'm just waiting for Dabo Swinney to throw OC Garrett Riley under the bus because that's what he did 2 years ago and probably what he'll do again here. I do still have them a 17-point favorite against Syracuse this week, so it's not like I'm considering Clemson as a ruined team or anything. I mean, maybe Georgia Tech is pretty good, and that was another talking point on the podcast today. Like, their ACC schedule is a joke the rest of the way. So are they a team that could make the playoff? We'll wait and see, but... I'm right in line with the market pretty much. Clemson's a 17.5-point favorite. I have them a 17-point favorite. You don't want to downgrade teams too much off of like one lackluster performance. Not that Clemson has looked good on the whole, but just that there's still a lot of talent on this team, and also Antonio Williams hasn't played yet. So if they can get him back, Bryant Wesco had a big game for them last weekend, but he was the only one who had a big game at the wide receiver position. So as they get healthier, maybe they get a little bit stronger. But Cade Klubnik, I really thought that this guy would take that step forward this season as, one of the few holdover quarterbacks in college football, and he hasn't.
And I think what's so frustrating about them is we were hyping this team up so much because of all of the returning production that they had and how talented this group is. But maybe we shouldn't I heard Jeff Schwartz say this the other day, maybe we shouldn't weigh returning production as much as we are because of what some teams are able to do in the transfer portal, which is something that Clemson doesn't necessarily subscribe to. And then also the fact that they're so talented, but they haven't played to their talent level really at all this season.
Yeah, returning production's a really tough thing for me, especially because, you'll get a lot of teams that have a high percentage of returning production, but they were terrible last year. Mm-hmm. So, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. These guys are not suddenly going to get better. When you talk about a team like Clemson that's already good, you would think that returning production is a really big positive for them. But, also, Dabo Swinney's a guy who doesn't really leverage the portal very well. They've had some offensive line issues that they haven't addressed. Maybe they haven't addressed the running back position for this year with Will Shipley gone and Phil Maffa. It can be really tricky to decide what's real and what's not when it comes to returning production. And so far to this point, Clemson's returning production hasn't helped them at all.
Yeah, and I think with that debate, it's not even so much about returning production. We were guilty of this, I think, when we did our preseason rankings. It's ignoring the flaws of the returning production.
Sure.
So this was a 4-loss team last year that got smoked by Louisville at one point, even though the score doesn't really indicate what that was. In totality, it had lost 4 games, had lost to South Carolina. Again, South Carolina down the stretch was a little bit better. Got blown out by Georgia. And I think us who thought Clemson, and we had discussed this, we had kind of cooled on what this team was going to be, but still thought they were going to be good. I think we ignored some of the blemishes from last year. Yeah. And it's the whole thing of, all right, returning production, yes, but if the returning production sucked, then why are we assuming that there's going to be some logical step forward?
Right. And also, in the case of Clemson, right, yeah, they're bringing back a lot of guys with numbers, but did they fix the offensive line? Did they get better in the back 7 on defense? Did they address the needs that they had? And it seems like they really didn't.
Also, to your point about Georgia Tech, I know this is something that JVT and I are like-minded on that we're going to discuss a little bit later on in the show, but you said that schedule extraordinarily winnable for them the rest of the way. JVT was looking at it to make the playoff price. I was looking at just to make the ACC title game, plus 130. Feels very realistic with what they have coming, knowing also what Florida State still has on the schedule to come for them.
So this is, again, something that we did talk about on the College Football Podcast. I ran through this list of numbers, but for the sake of time here, I have them a 3-point favorite on the road at Duke, 5.5-point favorite on the road at NC State. Those are their 2 toughest remaining games here in conference for me with Georgia Tech. Now, with that being said, I think no minus 230 to make the college football playoff is a good bet because, first of all, they're probably going to lose to Georgia, right, in Week 14, right? 2-touchdown underdog in that game. They're probably going to lose. I think they will. And then they'd have to beat Miami to get the ACC automatic bid. If they lose both of those games, they're not getting an at-large berth just because they beat a Clemson team that, who knows how they're going to wind up at the tail end of the season here. So I guess it's kind of minus 230, betting against them against Miami this far in advance. But, Miami's an 11-point favorite for me right now in my power ratings on a neutral field. I'm comfortable with taking the minus 230. And the other thing is, we talk about what they've been able to do in an underdog role with Brent Key and stuff like that. What do they do now with expectations, right? Now they're not the underdog. Now they're not the rally together type of team. They're the favorite. Teams are coming at them now. And I'm curious to see how they handle that situation. And furthermore, can Haynes King stay healthy? Because he means so much to that team.
The ACC has become such an interesting conference. Let's stay in here really quickly. I'm going to ask you to pull up your power ratings, or maybe you know what this is going to be off the top of your head. Speaking of raised expectations, the Golden Stormies of Cal. What do you make this number?
That's exactly what I wanted to ask next, so I'm very excited you did that. Because
this is, as I have dubbed it, the Stormy Bowl. They get to take on San Diego State this week. They are about, 12.5, 11-point favor, somewhere in that range. I haven't checked for a couple of hours. So, yeah, that's a big role reversal for a team many thought was going to be the worst in the country. Or one of the worst, I should say. I don't want to be hyperbolic.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, maybe I'm drinking a little bit too much Cal Kool-Aid or I'm too down on San Diego State. I have an 18 in my power rating. So it's one of my, I think, my biggest overlay of the week. I just don't know that San Diego State has found any offense at all. And we know that Cal's been playing well on both sides of the ball. Again, obviously laying that kind of number on the road is a little bit tricky, but
in the bowels of Snapdragon Stadium,
I think San Diego State's a really, really bad football team again.
I also just think the transitive property of what Washington State did to them and then what we just saw North Texas do to Washington State is a big cause for concern for what the Aztecs bring. I really like Cal.
Was super weird too.
Yeah,
there's a lot of strange happenings in that game between Washington State and San Diego State.
Well, I'm curious. What do you think? Speaking of the ACC, though, could Cal be a 9-10 win team also looking at their schedule, there's a lot of intrigue, I feel like, with that team and potentially at the top of the ACC with Clemson falling behind. Okay, we've got more with Adam coming up after this. Stick around, more Money Moves coming up on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Did you know that even though the football season is underway, you can still join in on the VSiN Average Joe contest from Edge Boost? It's all
Seriously?
about the weekly prizes. Yes, sir. Each week, you make 7 picks, NFL or college. The highest score that week cashes $500. And get this, if you already have an Edge Boost account, that price doubles to $1,000. And while you're chasing weekly wins, you'll also be in the mix for big quarterly prizes, airfare and a hotel at Circa here in Las Vegas, where we're broadcasting from, plus an in-studio spot on a VSiN show. Maybe
How
with
do
you.
I sign up for that?
Maybe
How do I
with
sign
you.
up for that,
I'll tell
Stormy?
you right now. VSiN.com/Joe. That's VSIN.com/Joe. What a wingman. Stormy Buonantony, JVT with you back here on Money Moves as VSiN's own Adam Burke joins us in person as well, managing editor here at VSiN.com. We've been talking a lot of college football and will again in a moment, but I got to say, one of our bosses here, Isaiah, just rolled in during
He
the
acts
break.
like a boss.
Just rolled in during the break and gave us the glorious opportunity to try the Oreo Reese's combo flavors. And I got to say, 10s across the board. This is good.
That was very
And
good.
granted, I always say that I don't think Oreo makes a bad product, and this just really confirmed it to me.
I would agree. I think I would agree with their slogan, which is it is milk's favorite cookie. It is very good. And they do no wrong whatsoever.
Did you like it, Adam?
I did. We need a Reese's Oreo bowl that maybe you could be on the sideline for at some point.
That would be, dude, let's go.
No, I think what we need to do now, please file this away, Brian Ortega. You know how everybody does around March Madness, like the brackets. So what's the best? An Oreo bracket would be the best Oreo flavors. It's a very easy bracket.
The
to put
Post
together.
Malone Oreos were phenomenal.
Very good.
They were so good.
I like the ones that they have around 4th of July that have the little Pop Rocks in them that give you the little going. Oh, don't say, Brian Ortega, our producer in my ear, just said, ew. Don't knock it till you try it, buddy.
The last point before our other bosses kick down the door here, I will say that I do believe that for whatever reason, even though there is no change, the holiday Oreos, such as like Oreo, the orange ones, right? Halloween and or the Christmas ones that have the red filling, they don't taste any different, but they do taste different, if you know what I'm saying.
Meanwhile, I say the same about the Reese's shapes for like the tree
100%.
shape, the eggs, the just
Pumpkins,
dynamite.
trees, eggs.
No pumpkin trees or eggs to my knowledge
Slam
in
'em down,
Miami,
baby.
but this is a team that I know. Okay, don't do that again. That is something that JVT and I are very high on. Last week, we really liked Miami in the spot against USF.
To be fair, so many people did as well. Miami minus 17.5 was trending on Saturday morning with like 85,000 posts, if I remember correctly.
Was it really?
Yeah. So there was a lot of people that liked them last week.
Public sentiment didn't, though. Public was all over taking the dog,
Really?
it appeared, yeah. So, but how do you feel about him this week against a Florida team that is really struggling? DJ Lagway off a 5 interception performance and hasn't really been to the form we saw him last year when healthy.
Yeah, this is a really tough game. So I have Miami a 9.5-point favorite, but I'm not excited about running to the window to bet them by any means because for Florida, I mean, yeah, Lagway had 5 interceptions last week and they gave up 20 points to LSU. That, Garrett Nussmeier is on that team, and he was among the favorites to win the Heisman Trophy. So, not really a great look for Florida's offense, but a really, really good look for Florida's defense. And no one's really been able to slow down Miami yet, and I have them at least a touchdown favorite in every game the rest of the way. So, I know JVT mentioned that he played them at 60-1 to win the title. That's probably a pretty good look here. Even though they do play Florida State, who's obviously significantly better this season, they don't have Clemson, which might actually be a bummer for them this year with the way that they look. But, yeah, I mean, as long as Mario Cristobal doesn't screw one up, which is certainly possible, Miami should run the table here. But as far as this game goes this weekend, maybe I'm going to look at the under. Something I'm going to have to dive a little bit deeper into because, again, when you have 5 interceptions and you give up 20 points, that's a phenomenal defensive performance. So, I don't know. We'll see if maybe they'll be the team to finally slow the Hurricanes down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm somewhat surprised at the way the market, and that's why I bet Miami is shaping up for the national championship. And this is just one shot, but DraftKings has Ohio State as a favorite at 6-1. Penn State followed at 7-1. Oregon and Georgia are 7 and 750. And then after that, I mean, you tell me who you feel confident about. Texas, LSU, Alabama. And then you get to Miami. I know that sometimes futures are a reflection of liability, but to have that gap between these two teams at the top, and let's be honest, so I have a ticket on Penn State to win a national championship as well from before the season started. We still don't know what Penn State is. We haven't really seen them play anybody. Ohio State, they did pass their one test against Texas, but if you look at the success rate numbers of that game, in any other iteration of that contest, they probably lose it to a more competent opponent who puts up those same success rate statistics. So I think I am surprised, given the returns for Miami against the level of competition, that the market hasn't snapped a little bit more here in putting them up in like that upper echelon of teams to win a championship.
And with that in mind, with Texas as short as they are, is that just a liability thing? Because I don't know what you've seen from Texas big picture that says they're that much better than Miami.
Probably. I mean, it seems like that's probably what it's going to be. I mean, I dropped Texas 4.5 points in my power ratings here for this week, and I actually embedded a tweet in the article. I was cackling at this tweet. At Trill Bro Dude tweets, Arch Manning is so bad he might legitimately set back nepotism. Like, I mean, he is not good. He is not going to win you a national championship the way that things are going so far. And again, I mean, they still have to navigate their way through a brutal SEC schedule.
You know who he'd do well with? Dan Mullen. Just saying.
Yeah, probably would.
Transfer on over, buddy.
Come on
You'll
down.
get
Probably would.
Yep, come on
Vegas
down to
will
Sin
welcome
City.
you with
Come
open
on down
arms.
to Sin City, buddy.
But I mean, to you guys' point, right? Like, I mean, obviously it's a very high variance environment in college football right now, just because, again, all these rosters are basically brand new. But yeah, I mean, is there somebody who's a middle shot that looks kind of interesting, right? I mean, like, I don't know, Utah's 90-1. Mm-hmm. Like,
Yeah.
Texas Tech is 60-1.
Right.
They play each other this week, and Utah's favored.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there may be some mispricings out there if you're willing to take a shot on some of these mid-range types of teams.
Yeah, they can at least like make some of these runs in these college football playoffs and put you in a position like you're talking about. I think Utah is good enough to win a few games, and then all of a sudden you're finding yourself in position to hedge off of a 90-1, if you will, or something like that. Let me ask you really quick, since you did talk to the godfather of Notre Dame, Tim Murray, who I think did he get his master's there? Is that what it was?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Did he?
I think so.
Does he have a master's?
I thought he just grew up a fan.
Okay, I know I'm being sarcastic. I don't think he set foot on the campus other than to watch games. How worried are you about them defensively?
Oh, very worried.
You're right. Like some of these defensive numbers, we talked about this the other day, and I was getting angry, not at Stormy, but on the discourse of Twitter. Like, there's just this thought of like, well, they're going 10-2. What do we think? I don't know if they're going 10-2.
No.
I don't know if their defense can stop a nosebleed. They still have USC. They have Arkansas on the schedule, right? They have Boise State. Like, what do we do with this team in terms of how they're playing them? The Purdue game's already gotten some play to the over. And by the way, just like they were inside of the number last week against USC, Barry Odom's got that team pretty competent. I think they can stay inside of that number against a team that defensively is floating around the 80s in EPA metrics.
Yeah, and Purdue's a team last week. I mean, I have them a 28-point dog this week, but they're a team last week that, you know, I mean, they were -3 in turnover margin. They could not run the football. Their running back is their best offensive player. They had under 2 yards per carry. And they still hung around with USC.
Never really fell outside of that number.
No, never really did. And for Notre Dame, I mean, yeah, you know, first of all, you talk about the personnel losses, right? I mean, they lost so much from last year's national championship runner-up. But also, and I thought Tim made a really good point here, that the defense seems to have no idea what they're doing in Chris Ash's scheme. Mm-hmm. Like, they're just looking around, they're confused, there's coverage breakdowns everywhere. You know, they're not stopping anybody at the line of scrimmage. Like, maybe Chris Ash was just a bad hire. Or maybe it's going to take more time than we thought to actually get his scheme kind of acclimated to the players. And so, you know, that's one of the things that I don't think people look at enough. I mean, I know we're 3 weeks into the season already, so maybe this is kind of irrelevant, but it should be relevant for next season. I look at coordinator hires more than I look at head coaching hires. A lot of times the head coach is a figurehead for the program to be there and do press conferences and to seal the deal with recruits. It's the coordinators that put together the game plan, the position coaches, and all of that. Like, maybe Notre Dame just downgraded significantly from Al Golden to Chris Ash.
Mm-hmm. Okay, JVT, before we get out of here, ask your Survivor question.
What was my Survivor question? I had mentioned that Washington might be worth considering, even with Marcus Mariota, given the rest advantage that they're going to have here. Monday night game for the Las Vegas Raiders, a divisional game at that. Now you have to go play Washington, who's coming off of a Thursday night contest. That seems pretty tough for the Raiders situationally, even with the quarterback questions.
It does. I mean, Jaden Daniels is banged up a little bit too, so that kind of worries me a little bit. But again, it's kind of the same thing I've talked about before, and the same thing I will continue to harp on. Mm-hmm. Like, is this the best spot to take them? And when you look through the remainder of their schedule, you can make a very reasonable argument that this is. the best spot to take them, because you look at some of they don't really have any lesser opponents on the schedule except for the Giants in Week 15 on the road, and they already played them at home. So this is the thing. Again, you got to take 18 or 20 of the 32 teams if you're in the Circa Survivor or something like it. So if you want to take a Washington team that we all think is pretty decent, this is probably the best week to take them.
Oh God, JVT's gonna try to make me crazy this week. I can feel it.
I mean, that's or Seattle, which will be the most selected team.
Just fading the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, this one's different because, the Saints back-to-back home games, you're in a little bit of a better situation. Now you finally have to make the trip all the way over to Seattle. That is a very favorable situation. And I think the Seahawks are actually really good.
Yeah, that was the one that I feel like I was drawn to most.
Yeah, I think about 25% of the entries will probably be on Seattle.
I bet higher.
You think so?
I'd go higher, yeah.
Did you like any specific team?
I mean, I do like Seattle. I do think Spencer Rattler's actually played better than all of us expected. Mm-hmm. But, now they got to go outside and play against the Seattle team that, I think is pretty good, too.
Good stuff. Adam Burke, everybody. Follow him at Skating Tripods. All of the work, of course, up at VSiN.com. We'll be right back on Money Moves.